1944 Battle of the Bulge. Yes, we're back to the Ardennes again, one more time with feeling. 1944 Battle of the Bulge, a game about one of the most popular titles or topics in all of wargaming. So here we have a two-player wargame. One player will control the Germans, the other player the Allies, and we will see the two-act tragedy or comedy, depending on your side, that will unfold. It unfolds every time we have a game with this topic. That is, the Germans will be coming from this side of the map. There will be a thin and very unhappy line of American defenders here. They will receive a big punch in the face. The line is likely to be severely reduced, if not almost entirely obliterated. The Germans will push as fast as they can, trying to cement their gains, try to go as deep as they can as reinforcements start arriving from all directions. And there is a sudden death victory condition for the Germans. They win if they're able to bring an armor division with a strength of at least 2 out of the map from one of these exit points here. And also the units must be in supply. If they fail to do so, then you play until the end of the game, and then victory is based on victory points that are assigned for control of locations on the map. Speaking of the map, you already had a good look at it. It's actually a mounted board, very nice, thick. I like the map because it's very clean, readable, still pretty thematic. Tons of nice charts and players here on the side, tracks all around. Everything is very functional and well organized from the point of view of production. And really, once you look at the charts and the players here, you have almost everything that you need to know to play the game. Pretty much the main points of the rulebook are all well laid out there. Speaking of the other components, you have this tray here that comes with the game, very nice. You have these game pieces representing the combat units, of course, nice and thick, very clear, large game pieces, large numbers for those of you that have grown not just gray, but also blind in the pursuit of your hobby. We have custom dice, we have tokens for different kinds of conditions. Very nice tokens that you can use to place on top of the units in case you want to play the game with hidden units. Other things for, say, resource points, allied air, control. Everything is very nice from the point of view of production, not just good looking and pleasant, but also very functional. I got absolutely nothing to complain about the production. 2 copies of the manual, that's a nice touch for when you play against a human opponent. You get in the rule book and you meet a week later and you play the game. Of course, this is what you should do after the pandemic. As of now, you're gonna play the game solitaire because you're a responsible adult. What the heck, it's a pandemic time. And by the way, playing as a responsible solitaire war game is exactly what I did here. I played both sides at the best of my possibilities, so clearly without hidden units, and the game works perfectly well that way. So, as we said, the Germans are coming. Not many American defenders are there at the beginning, but things are gonna get better as the game progresses. As for the game pieces, we got these units here, and the number that you see here on the left is the combat value. Here you have the number of steps, which is how many losses a group can take before it is eliminated. When the unit takes a hit, you flip it to its reduced side. When it takes another hit and the reduced size has a number other than 1, it means that there's going to be a matching counter that you have to keep available handy. And so, let's say this one is the 5th, takes a hit, goes to 2 steps, takes another hit, and you look for the matching counter that has the 5th that only has 1 step. This one only has 1 step, so once it's reduced, it's gone, and so on and so forth. The other number that you see here in the bottom right corner is movement points. But since a lot of units have 4 steps, and so you need to add 2 counters, and you have to keep them to keep track of which one is which, and you have to switch them around. Oh, it's refitting, so it takes from a reduced counter gets to the lowest value of the matching counter, so you have to switch them around. I'm thinking, why not use blocks? If they had used wooden blocks, then they would have been able to keep track of the 4 steps just on a single block, and you don't have to deal with all of the matching stuff. The game turn is very flexible. The attacker, the Germans go first, and then the Allies go. But within each turn, there's going to be a lot of flexibility. Now, each player, each turn, will receive a number of resource points. As you can see, it's indicated here. The Allies don't start with many, but they acquire more as time goes by. And for the Germans, it's the other way around. They start with 20 resource points at the beginning of the game, and they go down slowly. And by the end of the game, they have 16. And so actually, by the end of the game, they end up having fewer than the Allies will have by then. The turn track also tells you other stuff. For example, if a side receives air points, which you can use to implement combat in attack or defense. There are also other things, such as, for example, the Germans receive artillery early on, which again they can use to gain bonuses during combat, but those tokens are gonna go. And so, things like that. But the heart of the game, again, is the RPs, the resource points that you spend to do stuff. When it is your turn, you will simply spend resource points to do different kinds of things. And I hope you can see that. See if we can get in a little closer, because this really is the heart of the game. For 2 resource points, you can refit a point of armor. So simply you add a step to a unit that had lost a step. You cannot bring back units that were eliminated. So if an enemy unit has that 1 step left, you really want to push a bit and see if you can eliminate them, because you cannot bring them back. You can only refit the units that are still on the map. For 1 resource point, you refit an infantry unit. For a resource point, you activate a unit for movement. For when you're attacking enemies, for each hex that you attack, you spend a resource point to attack a hex, as long as the units that are activating to attack come from the same army or the same corps. If you are attacking with units from different armies or corps, you put them together to attack a single hex, then it's more expensive to coordinate that attack, and then you need 2 resource points per hex attacked. So this system gives you huge flexibility, because in some areas of the map you may attack, spending resource points, and then if you still have other points, then you can move to exploit those, to exploit the result of that attack if it went the way that you hope for. Somewhere else, you can move first to prepare the attack, and then you move. A lot of flexibility there, and I like that a lot. Because you need the flexibility, because the map is actually quite strict. It's quite unforgiving. I played a lot of games about the Ardennes, and of course you won the forest and the traffic jams and the roads and the bottlenecks to be there to give you pain, and this game is no exception. I would say, and it's just a feeling, it feels like this map is even more unforgiving than a lot of other maps for games about the same topic. Defending behind a river, defending on one of these ridges here in the rough, defending the forest, really gives you a lot of benefits. And of course that is all in the advantage of the Allies that are trying to slow down the Germans as much as possible. Zones of control are particularly sticky. It costs 3 movement points in addition to other effects to enter a zone of control, which really means, again, it's hard to pile up a powerful attack against a well-defended American position, which is as it should be. When it comes to combat, it's incredibly intuitive. when you declare an attack, both sides will roll, the defender and the attacker. You simply pick up a number of these custom dice equal to the total number of strength points that you're using in that combat, and then you roll them. Suppose that I am attacking with a total of 5 strength points. I roll them. Each infantry result can be assigned against any enemy unit. Each armor result is a loss and might be assigned to an armor unit if one is present, otherwise to an infantry unit. It's just that simple. I roll those dice and I inflict 3 hits on my opponent. 1 can be assigned on anything, 2 have to be assigned on armor units first if available. That simple. Both sides roll, both sides will have a number of hits that are inflicted on the opponent, and you inflict them on the opponent. It's just that simple. Continue like this, turn after turn, with this, again, great flexibility here, thanks to the resource points. Turn after turn until either the Germans win an instant victory or until the end of the game, and at that point you count victory points and you see who the winner is. This game is really good. I really enjoyed it. And you do have the problem or the dilemma or the challenge design-wise when you have a game about the Battle of the Bulge of not making it unbearable for the ally player for the first couple of turns. That has been addressed in different ways, sometimes successfully, sometimes not so much. A way of doing it which works, but of course comes with a lot of overhead, is if you make a monster game such as Ardennes 44, in which, yes, the one side of the allies is getting smashed early on, but the map is so big, at such a scale, that you're already bringing in reinforcements and it'll take them 5 hours of real time, days and days of in-game time to get there, but you are moving those reinforcements already. So that's a way to do it, to give something to the ally player to do, to work on bringing in those reinforcements. But of course, that's a monster game, takes about 40 hours to play, totally worth it, but still. When it comes to a game that you're going to play in a couple of hours, you're going to play in an evening, such as this one, well, by the end of turn 2, sometimes the ally player doesn't have much to do because almost there are no units. But I think this is the dilemma of games about the Ardennes is handled well here because, well, you're still bringing in reinforcements, at least from some sides of a smaller map, but there is tension. Because even if you don't have much to do, you're looking in horror at those German units that are advancing, and you have just few defenders that are just there, like, you know, biting a bullet and hoping that they don't completely fall apart. And as the Germans, it looks very easy. It looks like victory is right there. That exit that you need to use to win the game with insta-death is not that far, but those, as also controllers, so sticky, but those roads and bottlenecks are so unforgiving. So that it really works, because for both sides, between turn 3 and 4, or 2 and 4, you really have a tense situation in which it looks like the German player is almost going to win, but it's not automatic. And sometimes, although the ally player has almost no units, again, all they need to do in those painful opening phases is to survive long enough. And then when the reinforcements come in, and so the big sudden advance is stopped or slowed down, then the tempo, the flavor, the pace of the game changes, because then it becomes about conquering those precious locations on the map. The German player has also to then worry about some counterattacks to protect their own supply lines. That's vital. The penalties for being out of supply are dire, include simply losing victory points if the ally player controls the supply points. So you definitely have, again, an interesting tragedy or comedy, depending on which side you're looking at. But definitely one of the advantages of this kind of game, if you handle the dilemma the first couple of turns well, and if this game does so, then you have a game that has variety of gameplay, because it's not the same thing happening turn after turn over and over again, but you do have an evolving situation from a clear attacker-defender situation to a situation of equilibrium and balance, and a lot of different possible ways in which people can try to negotiate the forest and the net of roads, to then a situation in which the Germans are stuck and they are in more of a defensive position. So you have variety of gameplay, you have fluid action, and you have a game system that to me really shines. I was so happy with this game system because it's the kind of super simple game system that I need now at this specific point in time and space and life and the universe and the meaning of everything that is 42 and everything else. I need games like this one that I can play in a single evening, that have a simple rule book, because it's the pandemic, because like everybody, I don't have human opponents that I can play with, and I'm just tired all the time. So I need simple, elegant, fun war games, and this one just fits the bill perfectly. Because it's a game with such a simple system, but yet so many nuances, such flexibility. I can spend resource points to refit my units, but then I don't advance much. Alright, let's keep pushing what I got. But then the fact that if a unit is entirely destroyed, no refit point will be good enough to bring it back, that makes that decision interesting. So a lot of interesting decisions emerge from such a simple idea, that is, here's the number of resource points, use them as you want, but you don't get too many. But again, and you can use them to create vastly different scripts from game to game, and even from turn to turn, from phase of the game to phase of the game, from massive advances, not worrying about refitting, attacks, etc., to more of a balanced situation. A lot of flexibility because it gives me deep gameplay, again, in a format that is so simple, so easy to absorb, and that makes a game, in essence, it could be used as an introductory war game if you're teaching somebody, including yourself, the art of wargaming. This is a game that a novice could play and still enjoy. But there is so much to do here, so many interesting elements, that the game is fully satisfying also for seasoned war gamers. 1944 Battle of the Bulge. Yes, you played possibly many games about this topic, but there's still room for one more in your collection, and if that's what you're looking for, this would be a good choice because this is a really good game.